Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the training module that I've created. It's all about accessibility, and there's different portions to it, but the whole purpose of us meeting is that there's an accessibility academy that we've started, and what it entails is you completing portions of my training and receiving a certificate for accessible online courses. And I guess the most important thing is it seems like it's overwhelming to retrofit your course and make the pieces accessible. But once you know the little pieces of each one, it's not that difficult, and you can retrofit as you go along. I think the hardest thing is all of a sudden getting a disabled person that's vision impaired and then trying to recreate the world. So if that ever happens, just remember that you do have SDR with an alt media department, and they also convert materials for students that really need them converted. So we don't have to do everything, but if you do create your own materials, I want to teach you how to make them accessible. So this is the online training, and it's in iLearn, obviously, and hopefully all of my stuff is accessible except for maybe I created a movie and I know that there aren't captions. It was just a class lecture. And so there's an introduction, what are the outcomes, and you're going to learn how to make Word documents, PDFs, PowerPoints, and videos accessible. And we'll go into all of that more. And what you need is just Office and Adobe Acrobat and the internet. And then the beginning is fairly clear cut. It's just an awareness of accessibility and disabilities and the types of disabilities that are out there and the types of materials that need to be looked at. And you can see there's some vision problems here. There's a couple of simulations just so you can see. How many of you know what JAWS is? It's a computer screen reader. I know, Miguel, do you want to tell everybody about that?
Well, yes, we use JAWS in Indiana University. It's a software that allows you to read the screen. When somebody has like a visually impaired person, just enable that reader. Everything that you see on the screen is being read to you in what kind of like computer voice.
Mm-hmm. It's a very computerized computer voice.
You can make it the speed. You can increase the speed so it goes very, very fast. Like I had the opportunity to work with a blind person over there, and she enabled it so fast that it was impossible for me to understand, but she was able to understand everything that it was being said. I mean, it was really, really fast, the way that she was listening to it.
Yeah, it's amazing. They listen to a screen reader, and so they're listening to everything on the internet or listening to a document the way that we scan with our eyes. So it's pretty amazing the way that they can use that. Then we go into accessible Word, and I have videos here. The videos are very short and sweet, and they actually teach you within 2 minutes. So that's kind of nice. Hi. There's some cheat sheets that are really nice. And so what I've done is I've scanned a lot of material, and I've tried to pick the best material to teach you with instead of giving you an overwhelming amount. So hopefully that's good. Then we also go into accessible PDFs, and one thing I want to point out here is the biggest mistake that people make is they put up inaccessible PDFs, and it's usually a scanned magazine article or something that they found that's really important for their class. So what we do is we have you use Adobe Acrobat Professional to recognize the characters, it OCRs it, and it converts it into text. So if there is an image, you can add text below it, but it actually OCRs the material, then you can upload it into your course, and then everybody can listen to it. And people with low vision aren't the only ones that listen to material. You can have a student that has PTSD, and they can see perfectly, but they can't really comprehend unless they listen to it as well, or dyslexic students, or just students that have mental issues, or somebody with lower vision like me. You can use programs to take the book and convert it to an MP3 file, and you can listen to it on your way home, which is a great way to study. If I had that when I was doing my master's, I would have been so happy. You know, a long drive out to Sac State, listening.
Are there copyright issues with that?
Not if you're disabled. There are no copyright issues.
But as an instructor, we can do it for our students?
If you have a disabled student in your class. And more than likely you will eventually. And really you're not going to get sued unless you're taking an entire book and converting the whole thing and uploading the whole thing for the world to see. But mostly the people that are going to see your classes are your students. And I would not recommend converting a whole book. If you do have a vision impaired student, they have to buy the book, they take it to SDR, to alt media, and they chop that book, they scan it with a high-speed scanner, which you don't want to do. Maybe you do, but you wouldn't really want to deal with the copyright issues. So they'll do that, and then they'll hand the student a flash drive or something with the whole book on it. But you can take a couple of chapters out of a book. I believe the rule is 10%. Is that true? And put them up in your course, especially when you have a brand new course and a brand new textbook. You can scan a couple of chapters. Hi. And just some quick tips for PDFs. Oh, and a portion of this that you do have to do is you have an assignment to turn in every area and a quiz to take. And you have to get 70% or better to be able to get a certificate. So the whole point is to do the assignment, which you actually take your syllabus or your own Word document and then convert it and fix it and add different things to it to make it more accessible. So I'm not trying to make you do something that you don't already do. And then also PowerPoints on how to make them accessible. And once you learn how to make a Word doc accessible, PowerPoint is almost the same, where you're adding alt text to an image. You basically right-click the image and go into the alt text tab and add the description of the image. And it doesn't have to be a long description. It can be something like simple as a black cat with glasses, or a cat with crutches, or something like that. You don't have to describe everything. Unless, of course, you teach medieval history and you've got these really ornate pictures and you really want to describe it. Then you can actually put that in your iLearn course with a description instead of the alt text, which is a fairly small area. You can just put a description for all students. And this works well not only for disabled students, but all students and also ESL students. So that's important.
How about graphs?
Graphs, you also want to describe those. Excel is accessible, and if you create a chart or graph with Excel, you want to describe it. So even in your alt text, it's a short area that you can describe, but above or below that chart, you're going to want to describe it, because some of those are pretty hairy, you know, the description of a chart or a graph. So describe it, and then everybody can learn from it.
So not as an alt text, but as words above or below. Although, give an example. Is it okay if I ask questions?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So say you're in a class and you're putting up a graph and you want this class to talk about what does the graph mean? What's the pattern in the graph? And that is going to be the activity that you would be doing that day. So if you wrote up on the top what the pattern is that you're supposed to see, then you're blown the educational value of the activity.
Right, and a lot of instructors feel that way, that they don't want to give away all the answers, but give enough to explain it. And then you can always add that description. You can open it up after your class has discussed it.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that kind of, I guess, certainly once the semester's going, you're grading whatever they turned in, this kind of pre-stuff before you post it.
Just give them a taste of it. You don't have to give away the world.
Yeah, I was going to say, so for her to have it be, this is a graph of median income in time since 1972 to 2012. And that's it. But not say what the pattern is. I don't know.
The other thing is you can have your notes like in a PowerPoint presentation, and you can share those notes with your students, because obviously if they print it or they view it, you can see the notes. But if you don't want them to have all the notes, you can have your lecture notes somewhere else. And then you can have, if you want, you can have 2 different versions of your PowerPoint. One can just be a little bit more accessible and have a lot more information, and you can share that maybe with a disabled student. And instructors don't like to do that either. They think it's cheating. But if it takes you 2 hours to read and comprehend and listen to a 15-minute paragraph, I mean, it's going to take you twice as long to do any test or anything. So you're really helping the student. Just don't give them all the answers, just a little bit more explanation. And we're not trying to give them an extra edge. We're just trying to help them comprehend a little bit better. Any other questions? And then also in Microsoft Office 2010, there are now accessibility checkers. So if you create a Word document, and after you create it, well, hopefully you've added your alt text to your images, added description to your charts, added heading styles to your paragraph titles. Then you can go into File, and then I believe it's in Options, and you use the accessibility checker. It will actually tell you everything that you've done wrong and tell you how to fix it. So that's a good piece of information. Does any of you still have 07? Office 07? Some of you do. O for Mac. Well, now they have 2011 too for the Mac. But you should be able to get that installed by IT. So Excel has the checker built in, and also PowerPoint.
Are you going to talk about Google Docs and some of their suite of things? Is that coming up in here?
No. Do you want me to tell you how accessible or inaccessible they are?
Yeah, that's right.
Google's come a long way. They still have some things that are inaccessible, and they've got so many wonderful things that I really hate to badmouth them by people. A lot of people say they're not accessible. I just went to the CSUMB conference in San Diego, and probably 20% of the crowd were vision impaired. They were ripping Google apart in this in the session I was in. And they have wonderful things. I mean, they do a lot for schools, they do a lot for disabilities. If you look at their Google accessibility site, they have so much more on there. They're almost as good as Microsoft, but they're not perfect. They have these glasses that help people see with super low vision. Have you seen they're called Google glasses? They're wonderful. I mean, they were showing through another camera, this one person had them on, and she was showing exactly how far she could zoom in so that she could walk around a room. I mean, it was amazing. Yeah, it was really amazing. So I can't really bash them. And I also know that Google Hangouts was not accessible before. This is for like conferencing in students and stuff, but it's more accessible now. So if you're blind, before you had to actually use a mouse to click on it to launch it. So now you can tab through it and use your keyboard controls. So if you're blind, you can use that, and you can listen to it. There's other programs like Zoom, like this. Once you launch it, you can't click on it, so you don't know what to do. If you're blind, you can't hear the programs there. Obviously you can't see it, so you'd have to use something like Google Hangout. Videos and closed captioning, that Jeff's an expert in that field, and we have some information up here. The thing that you want to know is if you create your own videos, the best thing to do is to keep it short, like 2 minutes or 3 minutes if it's a tutorial for your class, and then write a transcript. Copy it in Word, upload it as a text file with your video, and then it's accessible. If you're trying to use something like YouTube, you can use YouTube, but keep a transcript and upload that also. If you're trying to use somebody else's YouTube video, good luck in trying to write a transcript for that, because have you looked at the YouTube videos? If you look at the captioning, how it's kind of garbled? Okay, and it's because of your speech patterns. It's not going to always be clear. But if you try to recaption somebody else's, it is the biggest pain in the butt in the world. You have to use, there's a third-party software called Amara. It's amara.org. So it will let you pull up somebody else's YouTube video if you think it's important, and you can painstakingly type in the transcripts or the captions and try to sync it with the YouTube video. So if you have something that you like that somebody else did on YouTube, copy it, do it yourself, get their material, and create your own YouTube, or use Camtasia and create your own video and upload your own transcripts. The other thing about this is there's best practices for closed captions. We also have the CSUMB media server, which you can create your own videos. What do they use when they do that? And then they upload them?
Right, so you can go to the media.csumb.edu and there's a tab that says My Media, and you can add your own video files, just like YouTube, and they're compatible with most major browsers and things like that. But when you go to upload it, there's a place to paste in a transcript, and so you can paste a transcript in there. So I know you're gonna, I don't want to steal your thunder, but
I don't have any thunder.
no thunder? Okay, how about lightning? There are other services, right, that for longer videos, there are services that will transcribe it. So essentially then you would send this video to the service, and then you get a transcript back, and then you just paste it in and submit it, and then the server will process it and sync it up with the video, so the captions are added on.
But in that case, if it's a video and it's 20 minutes long, you would ask your department to pay for it, obviously. And then they'd use their Pro card or whatever, and then you'd get the transcription back from this third-party service, and then you'd upload it with your movie.
Right, and there was, I forgot, the other one was SpeechPad was the other product that we found. Remember you and I were
I think you played with it, but I didn't.
Right.
I think I did Amara.
There were another service that you would send them a link to a YouTube video, and they would transcribe that YouTube video.
But tell them how much the cost is for.
It's $55 finished hour or an hour of it for an hour of video, and it's broken into like 10-minute chunks. So if you have a 10-minute video, it would be 1/6 of that, whatever that is. So it is incremental cost, but you know, you figure, and this is the math that I ran early on. It's going to take between 6 and 10 times real time for you to transcribe a video. Even if it's yourself, so you're sitting there listening and transcribing. So if you have a 30-minute video, it's going to take you 3 hours just to transcribe it. So suddenly, $55 an hour is sounding pretty cheap because you're actually paying for 6 times that, and so you're paying someone $4 an hour to transcribe, and it's a real honest-to-God transcriber.
Right, and if you try to get a student assistant to do it, just think of the fact that they're inexperienced at it, and they're listening to it, and they're pausing it, and then they're playing it, and then so it's going to take them 4 times longer. So your department's going to pay even more for that student assistant.
Still have to go back and check a student's work probably to be sure.
Right.
At least with a professional service, you know that you're going to have some sort of standard of quality, standard of excellence there, where you can expect high 90s, mid 90% accuracy.
And that's SpeechPad.
No, the one that the other service that we use is called Transcription Hub. This is actually on our website, the CAP
Yeah,
website,
it's in the CAP.
There's a link to it. So essentially, you just go in, create an account, and upload, or submit a link where you can upload an audio file, and they'll transcribe it and email back a transcript.
Go ahead.
So I use lots of videos that are from other places in the world where you have lots of different languages spoken. So of course you have subtitles. But how does that work when you're talking? When you have not only transcriptions but translations and other forms of.
That's a good question. What have you done in the past?
Well, I mean, I just show them. I mean, basically, or I speak a language and I can just describe it. But I mean, what do you do with voiceover? What do you do with what am I thinking?
Subtitles.
Subtitles.
Well, essentially, subtitles
Yeah,
are
are they
captions.
okay? Are
Yeah,
they
subtitles
okay?
are legit. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
So
it's
that wouldn't
you're
be
done.
a problem. Yeah, so we're done.
Better.
Yeah.
that's right.
We need to be doing what she's doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same
Yeah.
concept, but in
Yeah.
French,
Yeah.
and then you use the English subtitles, and we're all set. Okay.
Well, YouTube does have that where you can choose a different language.
Yeah, so you can actually, in actually all of the.
But how do you know if it's accurate, if it's in,
Right.
Greek or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've used it.
Oh, you have?
And they tell me, some of it was right.
Some of it was right. Well, then you'd ask your students, right? Let's see. What I wanted to do is, I'm not going to go into how to make your documents accessible because that would take too long and we don't really want to start that right now. But what I really want to do is I want to talk to some of the instructors that went through the course and have them explain to you how they felt about it, how hard it was it that difficult, how much time it took you, and different things like that. So how about if we start out with Stephanie Johnson? And Stephanie is here because she actually was awarded a certificate. She She completed the course, and she's going to tell us all about her trials and tribulations, if any.
Well, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, it was more fun than I thought it would be. Cindy made it very much fun, and when I got confused, I could go to the other people in the CAT office and talk with them. I'd say it took maybe an hour and a half or a couple of hours each section. You know, working on the syllabus was the hardest part, because I had to go through it section by section, put in a table of contents. I think that took the longest. Converting things to PDF was pretty straightforward. It didn't take a lot of time once I understood how it worked. But it was really fun. And the thing is that all of my courses, since I'm teaching art history and public art, it was very important to do captioning. And somebody asked earlier in the session here today about saying too much or saying too little. And my suggestion would be to put in a caption that tells enough, and then when you break your class into small groups or whatever it is, then the students can talk further about it and bring back more information to you about what they've discovered themselves. It flowed. I mean, I didn't know whether it was going to be difficult or whether it was going to be easy, but it was easier than I thought it would be. It just required focus and setting aside the time, and not, as Cindy said, about being overwhelmed, not just taking on the whole thing, but doing a section and a section and a section and scaffolds in, and before you know it, you're done with the course. I've been taking notes about the YouTube and making your own videos, and I guess that'll be my next giant step to do. And I think that'll be fun, but it's been fun. It's really been fun. I feel like it's a service for the students. I've had a couple of students with visual challenges in the past in my classes, and so I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve this time. Because 2 semesters or so ago, I had a student, she went to Cindy, and we had to convert different things for the same course that I just completed. But now that I know how to do it, I'm going to do it for all of my courses, and so I'll be ahead, as you spoke to before. I'll be ahead of the curve, rather than having to convert everything in mid-semester or in the beginning of the semester and be unprepared.
What was the most important thing that you learned?
I think the most important thing that I learned in terms of self-reflection is that I can do it. That I could do it, that the technology is accessible and understandable. And I also learned that it's very important. I'm also running a screen over here with the accessibility course. Looking at the different things that you put in about how things will look to students with visual impairments, that really taught me a lot, because that's not my particular challenge. So just to be able to see it in the same way that somebody that has a visual challenge or some kind of cognitive challenge might see it was really illuminating to me. I learned a lot just being able to see that, because we are so visually oriented, and I'm in a visual department, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill, do you want to talk to us about all your trials and tribulations with your course?
Well, mine is a little bit different because I went into the once a month we met with you, and for me that made it a lot easier because almost like a crutch. You went through the steps, we did the steps, and if we had any questions, you were right there to ask questions for. So it was very straightforward, pretty easy. The videos help for when you're doing it on your own at home for like the PowerPoint. Like she said, you have homework to do. So the videos help me a lot when doing it by myself. But yeah, like you were saying, it's pretty straightforward. Can be fun. I don't have that many pictures, so for mine it was like PowerPoints were really fast and easy to do. PDFs for me were the hardest part though, because I would, like you were saying, I scanned magazines, and so the reader didn't like to read exactly how, because it has boxes all over the place. So the reader had trouble reading. That's one of the things that we found to be a problem for it, because each box you had to label it as something else than.
Yeah, that one magazine was famous for its sidebars and quotes and an image here, and so that one I would even have a hard time converting. But if you were really going to use an article out of that magazine and you had a disabled student, then you could have that sent over to SDR and they would convert it. But for what you did a really good job converting that yourself. What was it, 1 page or 2 pages? Something like that. So that was the hardest thing that you did.
For me, yeah, because it's hard when you're listening to it and then all of a sudden it skips to a box. And it's trying to read stuff in the box and then it goes back to the text. So it doesn't make any sense.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
So if somebody couldn't see it and it was jumping around like that, it would be even more difficult. But you wouldn't really know that unless they came to you and told you,
Right.
right? Okay. Thank you. And Miguel, you want to talk to us about
Yes,
your
absolutely.
experience?
I also had the opportunity to participate in the workshop. I really like it. I think it was very, very practical. The thing I like the most is that we were able to work in our own documents, in our own stuff. So by the end of the workshop, we were able to have our syllabus to be ADA compliant, compliant. We have a PowerPoint presentation that we also have to make it compliant, a PDF document. So all that was, the work that we did was successful towards converting our own documents and making them accessible. So that was really, really helpful. I had some familiarity with ADA, with accessibility, because before here I was teaching online in Indiana University. And in Indiana University they have a policy that any video that you upload to the internet has to be ADA compliant, so it has to have a caption. So I was familiar with Camtasia. I used to subtitle all of my videos using Camtasia. Later on I switched to YouTube to upload everything and subtitle everything in YouTube. However, as you may know, technology is always progressing, so you need to be updated about new technologies and how technologies can be used for accessibility purposes. In this training, I had the opportunity to learn that I didn't know that Microsoft now has the accessibility check, so I think that's a great improvement. Even PDF, Acrobat Professional has the accessibility check, so something that I didn't know because it wasn't there before, it wasn't there 2 years ago. So I think it's important for us to keep attending, not because we attended this workshop like 2 or 3 years ago, that means that we don't need to keep improving and attending another workshop like this again, because we can have new technologies that are going to be improving the accessibility of the documents. The most difficult part for me probably would be using, I think the software that Jeff mentioned. I think you demonstrated something with my media, that CSUMB that it did you, and how to sync the captioning to the video, right? We were trying to do that at that time, and it didn't work on the day of the workshop. I forgot the name of the software that Jeff was trying to.
Was it
Or maybe, I think maybe it was Amara.
Omara, I think it was
Right,
Omara.
that was the third-party source for syncing other people's YouTube videos.
Oh, was it different YouTube video?
I think it was Omara. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's when you have a YouTube that you don't own, somebody else owns the video. How do you close caption a video that is not your own? So, and I think I didn't know about that, and Jeff brought up the software called Omara.com. But we were having a very difficult time
It's
trying
hard
to
to
get it
use,
to work.
it's hard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay?
Yeah.
You didn't get to introduce yourself, so do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Jay. My last name is Luke, and I teach in the Liberal Studies department and also in special ed. And so when this accessibility opportunity came up, I was very excited. I taught special ed K through 12 for a number of years. So making things accessible, I did that all day long. In fact, I have a few K through 12 ideas to help you with your graph if you're interested. And so it was a shift for me to think about, oh, that's right, I need to make this successful for college-age students, not just 6-year-olds. And so compared to what you do for, K through 12, this was so easy compared to what you do for them. And my plan for when I transcribe, I always prepare a script when I make videos, not because for ADA reasons, but because I'm sort of a loon and, I can only keep so much knowledge up in my mind at the same time. So I always write a transcript so that I don't go off. But when I'm transcribing, other people's YouTubes, here's what I do. I pick a lovely bottle of wine. I allow myself one glass while I transcribe. I get the whatever else I want after I'm done transcribing. And you could do that with any drink of choice. It does not have to be wine, but that's how I do it. Because it takes a while. But once you've transcribed, at least I have found, once you've transcribed a few, you become much more quick at it as you would with anything. And the hardest part for me, I was very lucky. When I got hired in the fall, my department chair gave me a syllabus that was accessible, just the format. And he's like, here, use this. And so it was just very easy for me to cut and paste. And, and having worked with documents that were accessible for it, it made a lot of sense. The part that was difficult for me was describing images. I think the example that was here, a picture of Bob Marley showed up. And I was like, oh, I'll just say it's a picture of Bob Marley. Forgetting, of course, if you've never seen Bob Marley, you don't know what Bob Marley looks like. So I find that's a struggle for me, coming up with a good description that really captures what I want them to capture. But, that is my own mountain to climb. Continue to work on that. But it was a great experience. And like Stephanie mentioned, it will be so great to just roll into the semester with it already being done and not having to panic. Oh my gosh, I've got to do this, and I've got to do this and this. We always like to roll into the semester, and so just one more way to roll into the semester. So great experience for me.
Great, thank you. I want to point out that Adobe Acrobat Professional, a couple of versions ago, it was good, but now if you get version 10 or 11, if you open up an inaccessible PDF that's a scanned image, Adobe says, whoa, wait, stop. This is inaccessible. This is an image. Would you like me to OCR it? It's a text. And we have Adobe Professional here that you can get free, part of IT, right? They'll install it, or can we download it? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know what the policy is on that, but I know it's installed on most of the lab computers, right? So if it's a university asset, it's installed, right?
If it's a university asset, not a personal.
But it actually comes up with this dialogue, and it says, do you want to OCR it now? And you say yes, and it will scan through it, and you can see it working, and it'll go through 12 pages. The important thing is you have to remember to resave it with like a big capital A at the end, or accessible or something. You can add, under the properties, you can add that it is an English language, because that will come up as an error, even though we don't really think it is. But the most important thing is if it does it for you and boom, it's done, and then you can add alt text to a picture or an image. I mean, that was 90% of the problem before. People didn't know what to do when they opened Adobe, or they didn't know what to do when they tried to scan something and it was just an image. So they've come a long, long way. And Stephanie's got that, and she's OCR'd her documents. And I think we discovered that you had an older version of Adobe, and it wouldn't do it automatically. And so then you had somebody install for you, and then as soon as she opened up a new article, boom, it was automatic. It was so great. Yeah.
Is it part of the Adobe suite?
Yes, Adobe Acrobat Professional. It's part of the suite, right?
I think maybe, yeah, it is. I'm not sure. I have to double check.
Yeah, it is.
Downloaded Creative Cloud. Yeah, I think I knew it was in that.
It was.
And it's just been updated since CS6 before it's now Creative Cloud, because I was actually trying to get CS6 and I had to get Creative Cloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Creative Cloud sounds fancier.
Sounds fancy, but yeah, it's all up there to free all of us.
Yeah, and when I downloaded the cloud, it updated all of my CS6 that I had previously downloaded from before, so I like the cloud.
Does anybody else have any stories or issues that they've had with students? Not that they were a pain in the butt, but any issues with students not being able to access your materials and you didn't know what to do, or no? You just have all angels? I don't think we're going to go until 3:15. We're probably going to end up a little shorter. But what I do want to do is I want to hand out. Yes?
I did have one point to make, and what I found is that, it's rare, relatively rare for us to get a student who's completely blind or completely deaf. I had 2 students report to me in my web tools class that they needed accommodations, and they're cognitive accommodations. And so I think that's one of the big things, and I'm sure that you probably, out of the academy, you see kind of all of the, you cover all of the disabilities, but the concept of what does that mean? Do they what's your, and usually when they report to me, I say, well, what's the accommodation we need? And so a lot of times it's extended time, but the thing that I learned, actually before Cindy was here, I filled in for a year, and the thing that I learned during that year was that there was a lot of tools like Kurzweil that really will help students who have these cognitive issues, that help them read documents and things like that. So you may not see it, I guess, as the disability. Many students don't report is the other issue, but you can't really prepare yourself for that, or you can't really, unless they come to you, it's obviously a better situation. But I think there's a takeaway from the academy is that you can create these PDFs, accessible PDFs that can be read by Kurzweil for students who have these cognitive issues, as opposed to being completely blind or low vision. So, anyways,
Yes?
What about, I use online quizzes in iLearn that my students take before class. Are those accessible? They are?
yeah, the tool,
Automatically?
and that's actually one of the big pushes for us as a university or as a CSU is that we made the commitment across the board to buy only tools or use only tools that are accessible. And that's been one of the big issues with Google. And we have officially supported tools in Google. So YouTube is not a specific officially supported tool, I don't think.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, so Docs, spreadsheet, and presentation are the official tools. Well, those have been vetted, and so we know, yes, we can say and we've tested them through the university, and they've also provided us with documentation proving that they're accessible.
So
iLearn is one of those tools as well.
And if we have, like in class, I hand out a paper exam or a paper quiz, how do we make that accessible? We put it in Docs, let the student take it.
Right,
in Docs?
it needs to be digital. It needs to be digital. And it needs to be accessible before it's digital. So, like e-file or...
We do this in class. We do stuff in class, so they would have to be on a computer with it in electronic format.
And you know better than I, but SDR has testing facilities for these things. So if they're declared through SDR, and one of the declared accommodations is alternate testing, then that's a whole process that's set. So that there are systems in place to kind of support that.
The other thing is, if they declare, they have to hand you a letter that says, I require additional testing, I require documents in digital format or in size 18 font. So you can, if you have a test or a quiz, you would send that to SDR ahead of time. And the student has to tell you, I need this in accessible format. You send it to them, they would convert it or bring it up in SDR on the bigger screen, large font, or if they use a screen reader, like there's a student that uses Dragon to dictate and then Zoom text to blow it up like to mega sizes where you're looking like this and you're scooting all over the screen trying to read these gigantic letters. But they have to let you know, because you can't be expected to convert it yourself when you don't know how to convert just something to Braille.
And they'll proctor that exam at SDR, so they actually have test proctors that will make sure that it's legit and that they're getting the same. If it's not an extended amount of time, it's the same amount of time and all of that. Is that correct?
Right. And the other thing about iLearn is that iLearn is accessible. However, it depends on what you put up in there. So if you upload a scanned article, it's not accessible.
I'm specifically asking about the online quizzes.
Yeah.
But can I add to that? quizzes, if I upload a graph or a photo, like I have them identify animals, I would need to alt text every image and alt text the graph with, or how do you do that if the pre-quiz is a multiple choice where you've uploaded a graph and you've asked them to interpret it?
Right.
For example,
Like,
I have,
you're saying like to identify animals?
oh
you
yes,
wanna
I'll have a
put alt
picture of
text.
a nematode and I'll say, is this a nematode? Is this a
Right.
flatworm? Is this a, and I would go through 5
Yeah,
different kinds
you
of
can't really
worms.
tell them what it is.
Right.
And I can't tell them what it is, but that would be, because I'm trying to make sure they have done the
But
pre-reading
then,
to
Right.
learn
something
how to
like
use
that,
the
if it's
app.
truly a disabled student, something like that type of a quiz would probably have to go back to SDR and they would have to proctor it. Because you can't very well say, I'll put alt text on those images telling them what they are.
But you would just
Well-
describe it.
Right. I mean, it's,
I
it's
know.
the scientific
I'm gonna have
illustration trick, right?
Yeah, dog versus cat. Because
You're right.
I have no idea what animal you're talking about.
Right. I wouldn't know a
but
nematode from a
You would just have to be
ornithode.
very descriptive. Same thing, because I was thinking about with the graph. So you wouldn't give the overall pattern, but if you had worked out with your student, you know, the x-axis is this, the y-axis is this. You know, the first
Right. Column one
the
is
first column, you know,
has a
goes
value
to
of-
70%. The second column goes to 82%. Third column goes to that. And then you and he or she or SDR have worked out a student to be able to write that so that then they would be able to identify the pattern because you explained the graph well enough, as opposed to the worms. Again, I'm out. But, you know, instead of if you're doing dog versus cat,
Even that's hard though.
It
Think
would
about
be-
what is it, and this is kind of like it.
Yeah.
Roundworm versus flatworm versus segmented worm.
so wouldn't you be able to say that? This worm, if you
Well-
wanted to use worm, or this species, this animal, creature, thanks, I like it, you know, has a segmented body, is covered with brown fur, I mean, I'm throwing things out here, has 5 eyes located, you know, I mean, would you,
Yeah. Well, it maybe is redoing questions because sometimes I'll do it as a series. Okay, tell me which
Oh.
characteristics you used to tell her what it was. Segments.
got it,
Flat cross section.
yeah.
So I would, that's given because they're supposed to learn how to identify visually and by characteristics. So as examples. I'm not, sorry, mine's so narrow, but I'm just thinking.
Well, no, because it should be applicable to yourself. Well, here's my other thought about the graph, my 6-year-old mind here. You would do strips of felt, and the student would just feel, okay, the first column is the highest, the second column is the shortest, this one is somewhere in the middle. So you would felt out your worms.
So, you know what, another thing though, SDR has something that's called a PIAF, picture in a flash. It's like a poster. So what it does is, you send them an image of I don't know what you said, nematode. Let's just say salamander.
Okay.
So if you send them a picture of a salamander, it will puff up the surfaces of this. I should have brought my paper. It'll puff up the picture so that the student can actually feel it. It's really cool. Yeah.
So her was a more distinguished way of saying
No, I see that. I just think of where I'm going. I haven't ever had this issue at all. Because
But if you really do have a low vision or blind student, alt media has to help you like nobody's business. We can't do it all. All we can do is what we've created, we can make that accessible. We can't recreate the world. We can't recreate the wheel, you know?
I think it's a meeting with this year because they have to get through that too.
And besides, they know how to make it more accessible. You know, I mean, they do this all the time.
Has had an IEP all through their life, or most of their life, and so they're going to come with ideas that they've had in high school,
Right.
in theory.
But don't let it take you 5 hours of your time to do one piece. Make SDR do it for a disabled student. Really, you have to. It's too much work.
I think I'll set up the things I can, and for something that difficult, I'll
Yeah.
let us when that happens.
Right.
Then we'll do the
Right. Denise?
I did the accessibility, I didn't get a certificate because I was not finished, but this is before. But
Oh.
it changed my teaching completely because I started looking at my assignments very differently, and it really brought in creativity, which is what I just got excited about again, is that how can you change it to make it more interesting for everyone, actually? And I was thinking, why not make it an assignment where the students help you describe the pictures, and they get involved in helping all kinds of learners.
That's a good idea.
And so you passed
You know what? That's right. Denise actually redesigned her course. How many years ago? Two years ago, and made it accessible. So I'll have to create a certificate for you. I didn't make you one this time. I'm sorry. I apologize. And you had a question or comment?
I understand we're having a nonverbal student coming up in the fall. Are there tools to help with nonverbal students to participate in classrooms?
Nonverbal is they do not speak, but they can hear and they can see.
Yes.
So more than likely,
I think they communicate on
have
the-
a little
yeah.
tool, right? That's an augmented communication device. They more than likely have that, and that if they want to ask you a question, they will either type in the question and it will have speech on it, or they'll let you read it if they don't want everybody else to hear it. But they've probably been using it for a while and they know what they're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. It just meant it didn't.
And I've seen those in action too. I've seen there's some students that were blind and deaf, and so they're using these augmented communication devices, and they're using Braille and they're typing it out, and then to the person that they're trying to talk to who doesn't know Braille, they can read it or they can listen to it. So it's really kind of neat, the tools and devices they've come up with. It's amazing. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I met Stevie Wonder?
Oh.
It was actually a couple of years ago, and it was at one of these disability technology conferences that I go to, and the CSU asked him to come and speak because we were launching this whole ATI initiative. And he was there, and Stephanie has seen his picture. I have a picture with the man, and he is the sweetest man in the whole world. The reason I have a picture with him is because I was with a bunch of educators in this one room in a ballroom that were all CSU people and educators. I knew he was coming, and some of them did too, but they were so formal and so professional, and they were educators. And I'm looking around and I'm saying, that is Stevie Wonder, and I'm right next to the stage, and I'm the only one talking to him. And I felt like the woman in Misery, where she says, I'm your biggest fan, well, I did that. And then I even told him, he's like, who are you? And I said, I'm Cindy Copion on CSU Monterey Bay, and I do accessibility assistive technology. And he was complimenting our university and the whole CSU on making this accessibility initiative. And he wished that they would have had that when he was young. And then the reason I got a picture with him is because I happened to put in that my favorite songs are his songs. And my Cherie Amour is one of my very, very favorites, and I named my daughter Nicole Cherie. And he was so touched, he actually let me take a picture, put his arm around me, and I still have it. And I just had to sign a release that I wouldn't publicize it or publish it anywhere, but I have
It's in
it.
her
I have it
office. You
file.
can go see it.
This guy's his brains. It's really just a wonderful, wonderful human being. Just like you would think, that's the way he was in person.
Wow.
Yeah, such a nice story. I think I told Stephanie when she walked in. I said, no, that's my boyfriend. She said, looks like Stevie Wonder. Any other questions? So anyway, if you do take my course with me, I'll meet with you probably once a month, and then we'll work on your material together. And I'm also launching, this summer I'm launching accessibility training for staff, which is not as stringent as for faculty, but you do have to turn in homework and you do have to do the quizzes. It's just, you don't have to create a 10-page syllabus and make it accessible. You can create a Word doc, a simple couple-page Word doc.
I'm going to sign up, Cindy.
Yeah, you
Make
signed up.
my 201 accessible.
I actually got such a huge response that I had to put my response form online. I couldn't keep up with the RSVPs. But, I have certificates, and the only bad news is that Mark Ullman, the director of CAT, is supposed to be here to sign them.
And he's gone missing? Where is he?
He said he promised to be here, but he thinks this is going to go till 3:15. But I'm still going to hand out the certificates. It's just that you're going to have to track down Mark. It is like John Hancock, and his would be much more official than mine because nobody really knows my name.
The important.
Could you
hand these out. This is just a little flyer on the academy and how to get in touch with me. And then we're having summer sessions, 2 sessions this summer. And then I'm starting up, I don't think faculty want to go to a summer session, anything, but we're starting up faculty training again in the fall. I'll be doing that. Oh, Stephanie, I have the certificate for you, but I can't hand it to you. And, which is good because Mark hasn't signed it, but can you see this? Let me get a little closer.
Yeah.
You can actually get your own certificate online with each of them. These are much nicer.
I will send you my address, okay?
Okay.
Unless Denise takes a screenshot of it right now.
I got your address. Stephanie, I got your address. I'll give it to her.
And then I have one for Jay Luke.
Yay for Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Jill Yamashita.
Refrigerator material.
Congratulations. And Miguel Lara. Congratulations. And I also have a little perk of my favorite students that graduated. I happen to have a husband in the wine business. He works for Constellation
Do the right thing.
Wines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, let's start transcribing some videos right now.
Stephanie, this is for you too. Jay.
Thanks. As I said, we should start transcribing
Yeah, you
right
should.
now.
Yeah, one glass. So I think that might be it, and I do have business cards. I think I'll leave these up here, and you guys can get one if you want. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Too bad it's not Friday, right? Or is it Friday for most of you?
Thursday's the new Friday.
Friday Junior.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. If you want to take off and get some candy, where did I put the chocolate?
Over there.